Percent. The word percent is commonly used in everyday life. For example, unemployment rate of 5% or annual inflation of 3%. Percent often is written in the percent symbol, that means per 100, and or out of every 100. It is a way of expressing a proportion or a fraction as a whole, where the whole is considered to be 100 parts. For example, an unemployment rate of 5% means that for every 100 people in the workforce, 5 are unemployed. Annual inflation rate of 3%, what does that mean? That means that prices on average have increased 3 units for every 100 units of their previous price over a year. If we have that increase in tuition of 10%, that means that tuition has gone up $10 for every $100 it cost previously. Percent means out of 100, therefore 1% means 1 out of 100. And if we use calculator, we can type 1 divided by 100 and we get 0.01. Or 15% means 15 out of 100. 15 divided by 100 is 0.15. So to change a percent to decimal, we simply can divide the number by 100 using a calculator, or without a calculator, we can move decimal point 2 places to the left. What does that mean? If I have, for example, 15%, so that decimal of 15, if you have number 15, that decimal is at the end. We can move it 1 and 2 spots, so the decimal would be here. So this is 0.15. If you have, for example, 3%, that means the number 3, and you're moving decimal 1 and 2, so your decimal would be 0 here. The rest we will fill it in with zeros, so we would have 0.03. The easiest way it might be just to divide using calculator. Alright, without calculator we move 2 decimal. For example, 25%, we divide 25 by 100 to get 0.25. As I said before, we're moving that decimal 2 spots, 1 and 2, and we have decimal right here, so that's showing right here as this stuff. 3%, we divide 3 out of 100, or move this decimal spot 1 and 2, so we need to fill it up with 2 zeros down there. So example, write the percent as a decimal, 14%. So 14% is the same as 14 out of 100, and we can either move the decimal from here 1 and 2 spots, or we can just simply type on calculator. So it's 0.14. 150%, part B, it's 150 divided by 100, and we can either move the decimal from the end, 1 and 2, or we can just divide it 150 divided by 100, and we're getting that this is 1.5. 4.5%, this is 4.5 out of 100. We can either simply divide this, or we can move that decimal. So this decimal is here 1 and 2. We would need to fill it in with zeros, and we are getting 0.045. 4.5%, because we from 4.5 we move it 1 and 2 that decimal to the left. or simply divide on calculator 4.5 divided by 100. And then we have 0.2%. It's 0.2 out of 100. The percent symbol means out of 100. And then we can type on calculator or move the decimal, so we would get 0.002. And it should make sense because 0.2, we move decimal 1 and 2 to the left, or dividing on calculator. To find the percent of a number, multiply the number by the percent in its decimal form. This means that you need to first change the percent into decimal form and then multiply that decimal by the number. So for example, what is 20% of 60? So first we need to change this 20% to decimal form. So first, change 20% to decimal. As we did before, 20% means 20 out of 100. We can either divide and we would get 0.2. And then we would simply multiply. By the given number. So we would have $60 times 20%, which is 0.2. And if we multiply this, we're getting 12. So 20%, what it means? 20% of $60 is $12. Whatever this unit is, in that case it's dollars, it's gonna be in dollars, in dollars as well. So we have it $60 times 20% in decimal, which is 0.2, is equal to $12. So this is the amount, this is the percentage, and this is the final amount. That's gonna be quite important for now. So in this, to answer what is 20% of 60 is $12. That would be the answer. So here's our equation that we will keep using. As I was saying, original amount in our case was $60 times percent in decimal, and this gonna be equal some final amount. It might be discount, it might be a raise, or it might be some number of people or students. So in that case, we can see it. For example, we had it 60 times 20% was equal to 12. But in other example, we can have, for example, if in school there are 400 students, 5% plays guitar, for example, then we would change 5% to decimal and we would multiply 400 times 0.05. That gives me 20 students. So whatever was my original number, in that case it's students, my final number would be also students. If we had dollars at the beginning, then my final amount would be dollars as well. So in this case, this equation would be quite kind of important equation that we will keep using all the time. And we can keep asking about different things from that equation. We can ask about the final amount. So we would ask what is 20% of the original amount, but we can also ask about the original amount. We can say $12 is 20% of what number? In that case, we would ask for this number. The same, we can say 20 students is 5% of what student population in school or something like this. We can also ask about the percentage. We can say, for example, 20 students is what percent of 400 students. So in that case, we will keep asking about different things from that equation. So here we have example. What is 30% of 85? So this is my original amount, this is my percentage, and I'm asking for the final amount. So first we're gonna change the 30% into decimal. So 30 out of 100, and we can divide that this is 0.3. Or you can move the decimal 1 and 2. Once we have this, we're gonna use the equation that this is original amount 85 times the percentage in decimal 0.3, and that would give me the final amount. So in that case, I'm gonna multiply 85 times 0.3. And if I multiply this, 85 times 0.3, I'm getting 25.5. So 30% of 85 is 25.5. Similarly here, first we need to change the percent into decimal. So we would have 1.4%, that this is 1.4, always out of 100. If we divide this, 1.4 divided by 100, it's 0.014. Or in other words, you can move the decimal from here, 1 and 2. And then we're using the equation is original amount 650 times 0.014, and we type this on calculator, and we should get 9.1. So 1.4% of 650 is 9.1. Next example asks us about the 12% of what value is 96. So now we are asking for the original amount, and we have the final amount right here. So first we're gonna change it, part A, we're gonna change 12% to decimal. So 12% to decimal is 12 out of 100. If we divide on calculator, we should get 0.12. So now we have my original amount, I don't know, this is my x, times 0.12%, and my final amount is 96. So now we can solve it for x. X times 0.12 is 0.12x is equal to 96. How do we solve it? We divide by 0.12, divide by 0.12. This cancel out, and using your calculator, 96 divided by 0.12, that should give me 800. So the original amount was 800. So 12% of what value is 96? 12% of 800 is 96. Similarly, part B, we have an investor received a payment of 570, which was 6% of the value of the investment. Find the value of the investment. So we are asking about the original amount. So first we're gonna change the percent into decimal. So 6%, that is 6 out of 100. We can either type on calculator that it should be 0.06, or you can move that decimal 2 spots, 1 and 2. Then we use original investment is x times the percentage in decimal form, so times 0.06, and this is equal to the final amount, in that case my 570. So x times 0.06 is 0.06x, and this is equal 570. This we can divide. To solve it for x, we divide by 0.06, divide by 0.06, this cancel out, and then we simply use calculator to divide 570, divide by 0.06. So in that case, we're gonna have it that the amount is 9,500. So the original, what was the value of the investment? The value of the investment was $9,500. So we're using all the time the original value times percentage in decimal is equal to the final amount. Now that we are asking what percent of 750 is 15. So now we're asking for percentage. So in that case, we have original amount, final amount, and we're asking for percent. So part A, we have original 750 times x is equal to the final amount. To solve it for x, 750 times x is 750x, of course, is equal to 15. To solve it, we would divide by 750, divide by 750. So my x is equal to 0.02. And this is, as you remember from the original equation, it's always in decimal. So to change from percentage to decimal, we would need to multiply times 100. So we have 0.02, we multiply times 100, and we getting that this is 2%. 0.02 is 2%. And you can easily even do shortcut if you prefer, that if you have 15 is what percentage of 750, you would divide 15 divided by 750. That's showing right here. 15 divided by 750. Part B, original amount 9.6 is what percent of 64. So 64 is the original amount times my x is equal to, and the final amount is 8.96. So to solve it for x, we would divide by 64, divide by 64. That's gonna cancel out. So my x is equal to, and we type it on calculator, 8.96 divided by 64, and we should get 0.14. So this is in decimal form. This is my percent. This is my percent in decimal form. So to change it, we would multiply 0.14 times 100, and we getting the percentage form, which is 14%. So 8.96 is 14% of 64. 14% of 64 is 8.96. And we wrote it down on the very bottom. To change from decimal to percent, simply multiply by 100. For example, 0.05 is 5% because 0.05 is 100 times 5%. Example 5. The shoes cost 140 and they are on sale for 30% off. What is the discount? what is the price of the shoes after the discount. So first we need to change 30% to decimal. So 30% change to decimal, so it's 30 out of 100. Change to decimal, always out of 100. And in that case, we can type of calculator and we're getting 0.3. And the next part with the discount would be the original amount times the percentage in decimal form, and that's gonna be my discount amount. So we have 140 times 0.3, and that gives me 42. So the discount is $42. And part B, if you get $42 off from your original shoes, we simply need to subtract that. So it's 140 minus 42. Use calculator, that would be 98. So the amount is $98. The discounted amount of the shoes would be $98. Your grocery bill is, example 6, your grocery bill is 84 and you have a coupon 10% of your entire purchase. How much money do you save with the coupon, and what is your final grocery bill applying the coupon? So we're gonna have it first change 10% to decimal, so it's always 10 divided out of 100, so it's 0.1. And to find the coupon, it would be my original amount times the percentage in decimal, that would be my discount. So it's 84 times 0.1, and in that case would be 8.4. So how much money you save? You save, this is for part A, you save $8.40. And part B, what is your grocery bill after the coupon? So original was 84, you save $8.40, so we have 84 minus 8.40, and that should give us 75.60. So after applying the coupon, you're gonna pay $75.60. Typically, if something is 10% of something, as you notice, you multiply times 0.1, so you're moving this decimal 8.4 one unit to the left, but it's only for 10%. I think the better way to do it is to use the equation original amount times percentage is equal to your discount or final amount. Example 7, an office secretary's current annual salary is $26. She is expecting a 3.5% of raise. What will be the amount of her raise, and what will her new annual salary be next year? So first we change the 3.5% to decimal. So this is 3.5 out of 100. We can type this on calculator and we're getting 0.035. Now to get her raise would be the original amount, which is 26,000, times the percentage in decimal form. And if you type this correctly, it's 910. So her raise is 910. And then for part B, what would be her new salary would be 26,000 plus 910. So her new salary would be $26,910. Example 8, factory produced 1,250 units last month. Due to new machinery, their production is expected to rise by 12% this month. How many additional units are they expected to produce, and what their expected total production would be this month? So as before, we're gonna change percentage into decimal. That's always my first step. So 12% is 12 out of 100. So this is 0.12. And then for part A, we would have original amount, which is 1,250. This is my original amount, times the percentage in decimal, which would be my 0.12. And that gives me, if you multiply this, that should give us 150. So how many units are they expected to produce this month? 150 more units. 150 more. And part B would be what is the total production. So we have 1,250 plus 150. And in that case, we have 1,400 units this month. So this is the total amount, the total number of units they will produce, and this is how many more they are expected to produce. Example 9, a local charity collected 4,500 pounds of canned goods last year. They have set a goal to increase their collection by 15% this year. How many additional pounds of canned goods do they aim to collect this year? So first we're gonna change the percentage into decimal. So we have 15%, which is 15 out of 100, and that gives me 0.15. Then we're gonna have it original amount times the percent in decimal. So in that case is 4,500 times 0.15. If we multiply this correctly, is 675. How many additional pounds of canned goods they aim to collect this year? So they should collect 675 additional pounds of goods. A student scored 75 out of 90 on a math test. What percentage did the student score on the test? Round to one decimal place. I think everyone intuitively knows that what we need to do is 75 out of 90. So we would have 75 out of 90, and that would give me 0.83333, and so on. If we change this to percentage, we would multiply this times 100 or move the decimal 1 and 2 places. So this is 83.3%. That's the score they received. But we can do it using the equation. We have the original amount is 90. And then the final amount is 75, and we're asking for percentage. So we have this 90 times x is equal to 75. And to solve it for x, we would need to divide by 90, and at this point, we have exactly the same amount as right there. So that's exactly the same. So x is equal 0.83333, and in decimal is 83.3%, sorry, in percentage, because 0.833333 times 100 is 83.3333, and we need to decimal to one decimal place, so it's 83.3%, and this should be percent as well. So that's exactly the same as we've been doing all the time.